Hey guys, and welcome to lesson 10. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to crochet in the round. And this one is kind of a two-parter. So in part 1, we're going to learn how to crochet in joined rounds. And in part 2, we're going to learn how to crochet in continuous rounds. And each one is going to have a different starting method. So make sure that you watch both of them. In today's tutorial, we're going to learn how to crochet in joined rounds using the chain method to start out. And so I'll show you what that is in a minute. Now, before we get started, I wanted to tell you a few important things that you should know before you start working in the round, just to prepare you. If you haven't really taken a look at the workbook yet, I wanted to first go over the difference between joined and continuous rounds. For joined rounds, at the end of each round, you'll slip stitch to the first stitch of the round and chain however many the pattern tells you to begin the next row. For continuous rounds, you will not slip stitch at the end of each round. You will work continuously in the round using a stitch marker to keep track of your last or first stitch. So those are both of the techniques we'll be going over in this lesson. So first we're going to learn how to crochet in joined rounds. At the beginning of this lesson, I told you there were two ways to start a project in the round. The first way is the chain method, and the second is the magic circle. The chain method is definitely more beginner friendly, but after you learn the magic circle, you're going to love it and you're never going to want to go back. So for this tutorial on joined rounds, we're going to start with the chain method, and then in the next tutorial, I'll show you how to do a magic circle. So because we are working with double crochet, we're first going to create a slip knot, insert your hook, and chain 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And now to create our circle, we're going to place 9, because this chain 3 here, this is going to count as a double crochet. So we're going to place 9 double crochet into this first chain here. So yarn over your hook, insert your hook into that very first chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and that's your double crochet. And now we're going to place 8 more in this same chain. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. All right, so we placed 9 double crochet into that first chain, and now we almost have a circle. So to join this round, we're going to slip stitch into that top third chain. So if you move your stitches over a little, you'll see that this was the chain 1, chain 2, and chain 3. So this is the top chain. So we're going to insert our hook under both of those loops, yarn over, pull your loop through, and then pull your loop through the loop on your hook. And that's your slip stitch. And that's our first joined round of double crochet. So now to begin the next round, we're going to chain 3. And again, this chain 3 counts as a double crochet. And when you're working on the round, what we want to do is make sure that our circle stays flat. So in order to do that, we have to make sure that we increase in each round. So for round 2, we're going to increase in every stitch. And increase means 2 stitches in the same stitch. So since we're doing the double crochet, this is our chain 3, this counts as a double crochet. So we're going to create 1 double crochet into the base of this chain. And right here, this is the base. So yarn over, insert your hook into that base there, and make your double crochet. And I know that this next stitch looks a little funny because because the strands are further apart, but this is your next stitch, so don't forget this one. So place 2 double crochet into that next stitch here. So that's 1, and into the same space, there's the second one. And for the rest of this round, we're going to place 2 double crochet in each stitch. So that's an increase in each stitch. Whenever you're working a pattern in the round, it will either say place 2 double crochet in the same stitch or place a double crochet increase. And depending on the pattern you're using, it might just say increase. Just a little tip for when you're working future projects. All right, and now we've reached the last stitch of the round. So because we started off with 10 double crochet in the beginning, you should have 20 double crochet in the second round. So since we placed an increase in each stitch, that added 10 stitches to our count. So let's go ahead and count these together. The chain 3 counts as a stitch, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. All right, so we have 20 stitches here, which is what we're supposed to have. And at this point, you're probably wondering, well, what about that stitch here? Well, this is actually not a stitch. Sometimes it's called a false stitch. So whenever we slip stitch at the end of the row, it creates this false stitch that looks like a stitch. So just remember that this is a false stitch, it's not a real stitch, so we're not going to be working into that stitch. Now that we have our 20 stitches, we're going to slip stitch to the beginning stitch, which is this chain 3. So we have 1, 2, 3. Now slip stitch by inserting your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, and pull that loop through the loop on your hook. And so that is it for round 2. Now for round 3, we have to continue increasing if we want to keep our circle flat, and that's what we want to do. So let's continue. For round 3, we're going to chain 3, and this time we're going to increase in every other stitch. So we'll increase in the first stitch by placing a double crochet in the base of our chain, so that's this here. And then place 1 double crochet into that next stitch, which is here. Now another 2 double crochet into the next stitch. And 1 double crochet into the next. So for this round, what we're going to be doing is increase, no increase, increase, no increase, and then 2, 1, 2, 1, all the way around until you reach your last stitch. So next we'll do 2 double crochet, one double crochet. And now we're placing our next stitch into that last stitch. And now we're at the end of row 3. So we increased and then no increase, increase, no increase, increase, no increase, all the way around. And because we started with our increase, so we have 2 stitches in that first stitch, then we'll end with no increase. So if you're working in the round and you notice that you have an increase both at the beginning and at the end of the row, then you probably made a mistake. So make sure you go back and you count your stitches at the end of each round. Now again, this is not a stitch, so let's go ahead and join by slip stitching into that top chain, and then chain 3 to start the next round. And again, we should have 30 stitches in this round because we're adding 10 stitches each round. So next round we'll have 40, then 50, then 60, and so on. Now for round 4, we're going to increase in the very first stitch. So place a double crochet into the base of that chain. And then we're going to double crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. So just 1 double crochet into the next stitch. And 1 double crochet into the next. Then we're going to increase in the next stitch. So 2 double crochet. And then 1 double crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. So for the rest of this round, we're going to increase in the next stitch and place 1 double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. So I'll meet you at the end of round 4. And now I've reached the last stitch of round 4, and we're going to slip stitch to the top chain. So we have 1, 2, 3. This is the top chain here. Yarn over, pull loop through, and through the loop on your hook. So if you haven't noticed, to keep our circle flat, we've had to increase in each round. For the first round, we didn't do any increasing because we were just starting off our circle. For round 2, we increased in every stitch. For row 3, we increased in every other stitch. Row 4, we increased in every 2 stitches. So for as long as you want to keep your circle flat, you're going to spread out the amount of increases. So for row 4, we had 2 double crochets in between each increase. For row 5, we would have 3 double crochets in between each increase. For row 6, 4 double crochets in between each increase, 7, 5, and so on. And for each round, you'll increase by 10 stitches. So now in round 4, we have 40 stitches. Now let's say after round 3, you're done with your flat circle and you're ready to start making it curve. All you would need to do is place 1 double crochet in each stitch around. So this is your first stitch here. And I'm just going to double crochet in each stitch and I'll show you what happens. Now you can start to see that while I make these double crochets, that the edges are starting to curl in. So if you're on an increase row and you notice that your edges start curling like this, then that means you might have missed an increase or 2. So always go back and count your stitches and make sure that you have the correct amount of stitches in between each increase. Okay, so now I've reached the end of the row, and you can already see just by that one row how our edges are starting to curl. So this is what it would look like. So see, it's like a mini hat. And of course, if we are making a hat right now, we would continue with no increasing, just double crocheting in each stitch for the next few rounds so that it turns into a nice little hat. All right, so that is about it for crocheting in joined rounds. If you have any questions at all, just leave them in the comments below. And in the next video, we're going to learn how to crochet in the round for continuous rounds.